This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words.
Mike Pounds.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid.
Anonymous, really anonymous.
I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I had the best words.
God bless the United States.
Round the nation, TYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here. Welcome to the show. It's Wednesday, it's hump day, half the week's over, and welcome to the show. We got a great one here for you guys today. We have Donald Trump and potatoes. That's a thing. You need your gun rights to protect the potatoes. Yes, because of the Great Potato Wars. Yes. Should be some fun talking about that. Then I believe I will descend into a rage. So we're going to have fun. We're going to have a light first story. And then I'm going to rage out because Donald Trump just came after my state. So, expect it because it's going to be interesting. Let's just say that. All right. Then we've got the truth about Jane Roe. So now this is interesting. Okay. This is a story about Norma McCorvey. And she is, of course, she's known as Jane Roe, who later on became an anti-abortion activist. Or did she? Fascinating development in this. 3 years after her death, by the way. Now we're getting to know this. And so I'm going to go into the details. You're going to really enjoy that. It's very, very interesting what the conservatives have done when it comes to the social issues, the culture wars. So that's really interesting. Then we have Fox News gets bored with coronavirus. They're just not covering it anymore. They're barely. And so I'm going to break that down. There's a new study from Media Matters. Really interesting stuff. And then we have a challenger to Amy McGrath in Kentucky. So who is this person and what makes them a possible person that could not only be Amy McGrath and get through the Democratic primary, which is incredibly difficult. It's actually more difficult than getting through a general election, in my opinion. And then speaking of the general election, what makes him able to take on Mitch McConnell? So I'm going to talk about that person, introduce you to a progressive in Kentucky. So that should be interesting, and we'll kind of cap the day off on that. And so, got a great show for you guys here today. That's just a rundown of what we're going to talk about. So if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. It's going to be a good show. It's going to be a big show. But what else do we do other than do big shows, right? Let's also not forget announcement, right? That we're doing a Patreon drive, patreon.com/TYTNation to keep the show sustainable. So that helps us out, helps keep the show, and it gives you extras, right? So everybody gets the show, the audio version of the show, podcast version, ad-free. that's cool. You can download that, listen to the show, the whole show, no ads, no breaks. That's part of being a patron. That's a perk. And then we also have a weekend podcast that we've been talking to some very interesting people. Mike Figueredo of the Humanist Report. Been talking to Farron Cousins, talking to Benjamin Dixon from the Benjamin Dixon Show. We're going to be talking to Michael Brooks this weekend. So Michael Brooks of the Michael Brooks Show. Interesting stuff. Patrons, you get early access to that if you sign up to become a patron. Patreon.com/TWTNation. You get it before everybody else. And I'm working on getting John Idarola, host of the Damage Report. It's not confirmed yet, but we're working on it. And we're also working on getting together and doing a podcast with Emma Vigeland. So again, not 100% confirmed yet. So when that will happen, up in the air. When those two will happen, up in the air. But it will hopefully happen soon. So that's exciting because those are two people, of course, that I love to talk to. And I have actually met both of them in person, but you'll get to know that if you listen to the podcasts and if you all that stuff. So anyway, and of course we're always taking suggestions on who to try to get on as well later on. But all right. So I think all that the announcements, that's all we have. Oh, of course, channel memberships. Those are growing excellently. So I don't know if that's a word. I make up words. I've got the best words, the greatest words. So I make those up excellently. No, I think that's a word. Should be a word. Anyway, it's going well. So sign up, become a channel member as well on YouTube, and support the show, Independent Progressive Media. We're going to get this. We're going to get Trump's potato war. Probably everywhere else, but I have a fun spin on it. So, as always. All right. Moving on. Let's go and let's get to the show. All right, hold on here. That is woefully out of date. All right. It's a little refresh problem there. Here we go. Well, it's messing up on me and I'm hosting, and that's bad. Okay. Anyway.
Be careful, I might. I'll be there. We're going after Virginia with your crazy governor. We're going after Virginia. They want to take your Second Amendment away. You know that, right? You'll have nobody guarding your potatoes.
That was Donald Trump making the case for the Second Amendment, the right to carry guns and to have guns, to protect the potatoes. Because, we all know potatoes are the first target of roving gangs and other countries. All right. So, wow. What do you really say to that? Of course, I know he's probably joking. I mean, not about going after Virginia. He's going after Virginia. Why? It's because Virginia has a Democratic governor, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, right? And so now look, are you kidding me? You need they're taking away your Second Amendment and they're coming after it. No, they're not. No, in reality, the Second Amendment has never been stronger. And so, yes, it's to the point of where we've seen in some of these anti-lockdown protests, people carrying bazookas into a subway, right? You got Meal Team 6 up in there with a bazooka and long guns, right? The Second Amendment is not in danger. If it were, since I actually do believe in the Constitution, and yes, I do think the Second Amendment is an important part of the Constitution. And although I think a lot of the adherents of the Second Amendment, I'm not saying all of them, but the most extreme people, they're like not getting the whole point of the Second Amendment to stop tyranny, which we already have in the United States. Yes, they can spy on you. The government can. The government can, like, literally put people on a kill list, put people on a terrorist watch list without a warrant, without due process. That is something that the Trump administration has just done. So, hey, Second Amendment folks, Meal Team 6, are you guys on that? Are you ready to take up arms against your government? Oh, no, wait, you're not, because you secretly love that kind of fascism. And so let's call you, let's call it what it is, right? That is fascism. So no, all they want to do is go out there and cosplay. Like, hey, I got nothing wrong with cosplay. That's it. I've never done it myself, but well, maybe that's not necessarily true. For Halloween, I did dress up as a Jedi, but I don't go around waving my lightsaber at people saying it's my right. Second Amendment lightsabers for everyone. Actually, that'd be kind of freaking cool, but no, I'm not out there doing that like these people are. So the Second Amendment is not in danger. But the fun stuff, of course, is who's going to guard your potatoes? Yes, because, the potatoes are in danger without armed guards. In fact, there's every day there's a changing of the guard in the potato fields. You go out there and you watch the soldiers switch spots. Like, okay, now you're on duty. Protect those potatoes. Got to protect them. No, this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So now, what's funny is that Ralph Northam, Governor Northam, responded to this, right? And look, he talked about, well, here's what he said. I grew up on a Virginia farm, Mr. President. Our potatoes are fine. And as the only medical doctor among our nation's governors, I suggest you stop taking hydroxychloroquine. Maybe, look, I didn't know that brain damage is one of the possible side effects. No, it actually isn't. But one of the possible side effects is heart problems, cardiovascular issues, irregular heart rhythm. And so, look, that's why I don't believe that Donald Trump is taking this at all. No, he's lying. He's pushing this. There's got to be some financial motive. I have no idea. I have no idea, right? Nonetheless, that's his response. And then came a ton of other responses on social media, which is always fun. One says, our potatoes. Are there armed people guarding potatoes in my state? Another asks, here's the president bizarrely claiming he's going after Virginia because you'll have nobody guarding your potatoes. Another said, GOP 2020, we will end the brutal Virginia potato wars. Another said, if there's anything Virginia is known for in the 21st century, it's our brutal potato wars. Yes, I know people that have been sent off to the front lines. Mashed potatoes and blood everywhere. It was horrifying. Terrible. Must end. If only we had someone to unify the country over a bowl of mashed potatoes and gravy. All right, anyway. I'm just being ridiculous here, and why not? Another one adds, it's off to another long night of guarding the potatoes. I am weary and long to close my eyes and dream of you. Alas, our governor is wretched enemy of liberty, and I must take up arms to protect the root vegetables. I miss you so, your loving wife. Hashtag guard your potatoes. This is great. Another one asks, in all social media, and this is why I love it. My God, libs, you're just going to leave Virginia's potato farms unguarded. And another, thank you, Governor of Virginia, for keeping Virginia's potatoes safe. Also our people. Because, we have this whole coronavirus thing going on that's, killed 92,000 people nationally in over 1.5 million people have become infected. But, people second, potatoes first. Because, then how are you going to have baked potatoes? Where are you going to get your French fries from? I'm sorry. In this case, maybe we'll bring back freedom fries, right? Because, we all need a little dose of freedom these days. Ridiculous. But, once again, in fun. Okay. So now we go from fun to rage. President Donald Trump has threatened to cut off federal aid to Michigan because the governor had the audacity, of course, to expand voting. So now he took to Twitter to rage out. He said, Michigan sends absentee ballots to 7.7 million people ahead of the primaries in the general election. This was done illegally and without authorization by a rogue Secretary of State. I will ask to hold up funding to Michigan if they want to go down this voter fraud path. All right. So, look, I got a lot to say to that, right? Because I live in Michigan, and I don't believe our Secretary of State has gone rogue. And certainly, I'm sorry, this was not done illegally or without what authorization? Whatever happened to states' rights? I mean, it's literally the 10th Amendment, the ability to run elections in the state. This is not like Gretchen Whitmer going out and she's the governor of Michigan, going out and saying, oh, no, the entire country is now going to have vote by mail, which, by the way, would be an excellent idea if Donald Trump were to say, we should all vote by mail in the middle of coronavirus. That would be a fantastic idea. I would be behind it 100% and would give him all sorts of credit. But that's not what's going on. Okay. If Gretchen Whitmer wants to send people absentee ballots in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, which, by the way, Michigan is still doing terribly. Look, we're doing the lockdowns, but there's been a lot of anti-lockdown protests. All these people, they get into a big group with their guns and without masks and no social distancing. And they come from all over the state, and then they all spread coronavirus to each other and then go back to the other parts of the states. No wonder we're not doing very well. Okay. And so if voters want to not have to go out and possibly expose themselves, as well as poll workers, to this virus by having the ability to mail in their ballots, they should be able to do so. But unfortunately, Trump doesn't like the idea of more people voting. Why? It's because, well, honestly, he's already admitted it. He said if we do all this stuff like expanded voting and mail-in voting, a Republican would never win again. I mean, there it is. Like, hey, at least he's being honest, right? So now here's the thing. The excuse that they used, and he used that in that tweet, voter fraud. Oh, there's going to be so much voter fraud with mail-in ballots. Is that true? Not at all. For one, the military uses it, right? Service members all over the country use this, and also states have used it. So let me go over and give you some of the information on how reliable mail-in ballots really, really are. Now, in fact, since 2000, more than 250 million votes have been cast via mailed-out ballots in all 50 states. It's according to the Vote at Home Institute, right? In 2018, more than 31 million Americans cast their ballot by mail, and that's about 25% of all election participants. So already we use vote by mail all over the country. Okay, so already a quarter of all voters use it. So expanding that more is not a big problem, shouldn't be a big problem. So now in that one election with the 31 million ballots, right? You know how many instances they found? 0. None of the 5 states that held their elections primarily by mail had any sort of voter fraud since making that change, going to primarily mail-in ballots. None. None. Now, Oregon has been doing this for quite some time, right? They've sent out since the year 2000, 100 million mail-in ballots. You know how many cases of voter fraud they had? 12. Out of 100 million, they had 12. Not 12,000, not 1,200, 12. Rounded to the 7th decimal point, that's a 0.0000001% of all votes cast that were voter fraud. You are literally more likely to get struck by lightning than commit voter fraud by mailing in a ballot. So knowing that, right, and just the sheer numbers of ballots that are legitimate compared to the very, very infinitesimally small numbers of those that are not legitimate, that are voter fraud, right, or that are fraudulent. Knowing this, why would you be against that? Especially when we're in the middle of a pandemic where in-person contact is strongly advised against unless you're practicing social distancing and wearing masks. And not, of course, touching equipment as having many different people touch equipment, pens, pencils, sitting at desks, breathing in the same enclosed area. I mean, all of those are very, very risky to do now. Why would you be against doing mail-in instead of that? It's because you have something to lose. It's because at the end of the day, you want less people to have access to voting. And that's the simple truth, right? And the reason that they want that there's this one side that doesn't want more voting is because they have less of an advantage. When less people vote, the Republican Party gets an advantage. That's why they don't want more people voting, and they admitted that. You can go back and Google the Goo syndrome, Paul Weyrich, right? He's modern, the godfather of the modern conservative movement, came out and he said, I don't want more people voting. The more people vote, the less we win. And that's paraphrased. Now, this is somebody who later on basically on his deathbed said, oh, you know what? Turns out I was wrong. That was bad. Turns out we do want more people voting, but the Republican Party is against that. And it's because we lose. We lose. So, right. Now, any other excuse, since there's no, giant amount of voter fraud, right? So mail-in ballots, again, are super, super secure. If you're trying to make an excuse that voter fraud is the reason, well, you're wrong. That excuse is complete and utter bullshit. And so people look, the people who are making the argument against this, they know exactly what they're doing. So don't try to pretend otherwise. Oh, no, I care about the integrity of elections. Well, really? You'd never do anything else that any other action to try to verify the integrity of our elections, and to expand voting in other ways. So the entire reason that you use that excuse is because, one, it sounds good, right? Oh, I'm just trying to protect the integrity of elections and make sure only Americans vote. But you know the truth. What you're advocating for is less Americans voting because your side loses. And that's what that is. Okay. So now that said, Donald Trump's coming after my state because the governor has refused to open up. And that's what this is about. She might have even criticized his handling of COVID-19, definitely disagreed with reopening the state, even though technically she's following the Trump administration's phased-in guidelines for reopening. But of course, and he's like, oh, that governor, that Michigan governor, that woman, right? There's nothing that upsets Trump more than a woman or a minority in power who doesn't follow exactly what Donald Trump wants them to do. And so, look, I'm not a huge fan of Gretchen Whitmer, but in this case, she's handled the pandemic a lot better than a lot of the other governors in the country, especially, Southern GOP governors, although there are some that are handling it fairly well. And so what this is pure pettiness on the part of the president of the United States. He's acting like a child, like a baby. And what makes it worse is that Michigan is right now in the middle of an emergency. There's been catastrophic flooding. 2 dams in Midland County had burst. It's a mid part of the state. So downtown Midland, this is a place that I've been to before, right? And by the way, it's the home of the Dow, of Dow Chemical. They could be under 9 feet of water very soon. And yet, you've got thousands of people that right now are being evacuated from their homes. Hundreds of millions of dollars possibly in damage. And yet, this guy, this so-called president of the United States, we're going to pull your funding because you want to make it easier for people to vote. So what? You're going to allow all those people that just lost their home to not get emergency funding? No, get out of here. You're an absolute menace to society. How dare you pull money from my state to throw a little bitch fit? Like, I don't care who you are, dude. These people's lives are on the line. And by the way, I don't care what state it is. This could be Florida that's underwater, and it probably will be due to climate change at some point. No, there are people that need help. But of course, Donald Trump would help Florida because he has investments in Florida. And by the way, Florida has Ron DeSantis, who does everything that Trump wants him to do. And that's, of course, the difference here. Compliant GOP governors get rewarded, whereas resistant blue state governors like Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom get punished. And Andrew Cuomo, even though I have a problem with Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo and certainly Gretchen Whitmer, I'm on their side when it comes to this. How dare you use funding, federal money that is necessary as a cudgel to try to get your way to stop people from voting? I mean, this is horrifying. This is ridiculous. This is disgusting. Oh, because, she hurt my little feelings. She hurt my fifis. Well, certainly it seems like the Republicans are a feelings over facts party at this point, especially when when somebody who is as thin-skinned as Donald Trump is the literal leader of the party. Thinnest skin imaginable. Feelings everywhere, but no facts. That's what we have. Disgusting. There's no redeemable qualities in this man. No care for human life. No care for any of the suffering that's going on. No, he doesn't deserve to be president. No, the man deserves to be escorted to the White House in handcuffs. Now, that'll never happen, of course. No, in 10 years from now, establishment liberals will be like, I can't believe people were so mean to Donald Trump. Look at how wonderful he is compared to President Logan Paul. Ridiculous, right? And I got my own problems with establishment Democrats. But at this point, this man is dangerous. He's a criminal and he's a lunatic and he's getting people killed. Americans are dying. And it's not just from COVID-19. Imagine that there's an emergency in your state, massive flooding. Thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people losing their homes, right? Thousands of people losing their homes. Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars worth of damage to these cities. In the middle of a pandemic, where now you have to deal with 2 of these things, 2 gigantic problems. Being able to render aid and assistance to these people while also making sure to protect everyone from coronavirus. And this is an impossible task by yourself. Insane. And yet Trump don't care. You don't give a damn. If you don't like that, if you don't like me pointing that out, if you're a Republican, I don't care. Go cry somewhere else. Snowflake, beta. If you're defending this guy over his disastrous COVID-19 response, and you're trying to deflect to China when it wasn't China that controlled our response to this, to the virus, the same virus that he refused to do anything about for 2 months. That time that we basically, when we had locked down, we bought ourselves some time to get prepared. What did we do? We pissed away 2 months. 2 months. This is a president that defunded FEMA, cut the pandemic response team so that he can give money to himself and his rich friends. No, if you're defending that, you're part of the problem. You're not an American, not a real American, because you don't care about American citizens. You don't care about your brothers and sisters here. No, it's all about me, 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 me. The individualism run extreme, right? There is individualism and there's collectivism and there's something in between, right? We're supposed to be in between. But when it comes to these people, right? People like Trump, it's all about me, individual, me, 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 me. How does it help me? We're not a community anymore. And that's sad. And that's why, that's why this country is falling apart, because nobody cares about each other anymore. Not these people anyway. No, all they care about is, am I winning? Am I winning yet? What am I going to get from this? No, you're not an American. You're a horrible person, and you're nothing more than a ridiculous partisan. Am I clear enough? Hope so. All right. I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back. We got Jane Roe. We'll talk about her and how bankrupt, literally, the conservative pro-life movement is. And we've got more. Stay right here around the nation.
Mike Pounds.
Welcome back to the show, Around the Nation, right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. All right, so let's see. I've got a couple of super chats here from Dango Bongo. Potato Gang over the Kingdom of Dreamland. I have no idea what you mean. Is this like a Kirby reference? And I don't mean the vacuum. So I'm kind of curious about that. And also adds that I'm Freedom Fries for my food program policy. I don't know if I read that right, but fascinating. Gotta love them freedom fries. All right. Anyway, I want to thank some patrons, patreon.com/TYT Nation for supporting the show. Oh, also thank you, Dongo, for the super chats. I want to thank Felicia Alam and Frank Wessel. So thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Frank, for supporting independent progressive media. Let's see. Channel memberships. We have, let's get down here. I don't know if I said Jim Wilson, but thank you, Jim. And Neo Shalinda. As opposed to regular Shalinda, we have Neo Shalinda. Comes with a new powerful attack. A new Giga Flare. Or is it Mega Flare? No, Mega Flare is normal. Then you have Giga Flare. Anyway, I'm getting into weird stuff. So, all right, moving on. Trademark usually comes after the Freedom Prize, though. But there's really no symbol on YouTube that works for that. To be fair. All right. Anyway. Let's move forward. No. Okay. Yep. Conservative icon known as Jane Roe, who was the plaintiff in the landmark 1973 Supreme Court ruling that legalized abortion, turns out that she's not necessarily, or was not necessarily, truthful about her conversion to the conservative cause. So, now, I told you she's known as Jane Roe, and again, that's because she was a plaintiff in that Supreme Court ruling, but her real name is Norma McCorvey, and she actually died back in 2017. Now, the reason that I'm talking about her today is because she had admitted something that is very, very relevant and very interesting, as, of course, Republicans all across the country are continuing to go after the Roe versus Wade decision, especially now that the Supreme Court is overly conservative. And if Donald Trump were to win a second term, then it would be almost assuredly that he would replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg with another social conservative. So now, going back to McCorvey, right? So again, she was well known for suing for the right to get a legal and safe abortion. But then later on, for becoming a star on the evangelical right, for then being opposed to abortion and women's rights. So now it's a strange conversion, and a lot of people thought, well, that's a curious turnaround. Now, conservatives, of course, celebrated it as a giant victory. Moral majority, of course, lauded her. She went on to make a lot of speaking appearances, and they say, look, hey, if we could turn her against women's rights, or I'm sorry, to be pro-life, well, then other women could turn as well to the right side. Again, she was also a lesbian. She was also gay, part of the LGBT community. So she said, quote, she that quote unquote renounced that, right? Renounced that, sinful, devious lifestyle and became a good Christian woman who was pro-life. But it turns out, of course, thanks to her new deathbed confession that we had found out, this is anything but a real conversion. Now, in fact, there's a new documentary that's coming out about her, and that's why we see this video. And I'm not going to show you it because it doesn't belong to me. I don't have the rights to show it. But I'm going to tell you about it, what she says. And she told director Nick Sweeney that conservatives originally approached her to try to get her on their side because she was a big get, a big possible ally to the conservative movement. She said, quote, "I'm a big fish." And of course they tried to get me because of that. Now, she also admits, though, in that same that same video, that she didn't do this for free. Quote, "I think it was a mutual thing. I took their money, and they took me out in front of the cameras and told me what to say. That's what I'd say. I'm a good actress. Of course, I'm not acting now." So, look, I took their money, and they told me what to say, and I would say it, and that's it. She literally sold herself out for cash. And the conservatives offered. They bought her. Now, that's not only unbelievable, but also totally believable. Because understand that the conservative movement has one thing going for it. They got the money. They got all the money. And what they do is, look, they're bankrolled, of course, by billionaires. Billionaires, special interest corporations. And in order to get votes based on unpopular economic policies, they've been fighting this so-called culture war, right? It's the culture wars. It's the trans people in bathrooms. It's, up to recently, LGBT rights. And back in the 70s, abortion rights. Even earlier, contraception. That's all up front. All of these, rights for marginalized people are under attack or were denied in order to get people riled up to have them vote for conservatives so that corporations and wealthy people can get tax cuts. And that's what it's always been about. Corporations can get deregulated. The banks can be deregulated so they can pollute not the banks polluting, but, industry can pollute everywhere. And that's the whole real reason for these culture wars. That's why they continue to fight them, even though now the American people are generally on the side of more liberal cultural issues. So there's that. And so they use that money, again, to buy people off in order to get them on their side. And if you're a woman or if you're a minority, you're a gay, like if you're a gay black woman, oh, they can't wait to shovel just like buckets of cash at you to get you to speak against your own community. So that is the biggest way to get, that's one of the best ways to get rich. So if you, there's no money in progressivism, right? I know this because I'm a progressive and I'm poor, right? I don't make a lot of money. There's money in conservatism, and it's because of who backs it. Large corporations and the wealthy. And so, look, they've got the money, but they have all the unpopular positions. And so, yeah, they use that to their advantage, and they use it very, very well. Dave Rubin's a great example of that. Dave Rubin couldn't wait to sell himself out. And he's been very successful at doing so. And so, look, that's also, by the way, where Tommy Lauren, I think, and Candace Owens came from. I think they're also secretly not as conservative as they put themselves on. I mean, I remember going through Tommy Lauren's old Twitter, right, before she deleted a bunch of her college tweets. And I remember I showed you guys video on the show where, she was asking questions about, and the framing was with climate change. Like, what are we going to do about climate change? Because it's dangerous and it's coming. This is when she was on a college program. That was before she was given a boatload of money. Now you see. So I don't think she's a genuine person. Now maybe she has a lot of hate towards the Democratic Party or towards liberals and stuff because we roast her every day on Twitter. But as far as her personal beliefs, I mean, she came out as pro-choice even. And so she's not as conservative. I think she's faking most of her beliefs, and she does it for the money. And the result is, of course, they make a lot of money, they make bank, and then you have old white men who generally watch Fox News that get reassured in their supremacy. And that's what this is. That, oh, no, we're right about everything. No, see, we even have the young hot women, that are supporting us. Oh, look at that young black woman. She's saying that we're right about everything. Well, that's wonderful. I'm going to keep watching. Somebody give her a raise. Somebody give her own show. And that's what this is. They're right. Now, it's important to see these people, of course, sell out. But look, selling out and saying something different in public doesn't also mean that you're not the same person that you were in private. You were just willing to sell out publicly and hurt other people. Now, this woman, she was this woman, right? Norma McCorvey. She was that person. And so she said in the film that I wonder how many abortions Donald Trump is responsible for. I'm sure he's lost count if he can count that high. She also adds, if a young woman wants to have an abortion, fine. That's no skin off my ass. You know that's why they call it a choice. It's your choice. So again, this is deathbed confession, right? This is before she died in 2017, shortly before she died. And she's like, yeah, of course I was faking it. Yes, they were paying me. No, I don't believe that. I still believe in abortion as a right, but they paid me to come out and say that it wasn't. I win. I get money. Wonderful. And how much money did she get, actually? Well, I don't necessarily know the total amount of money. However, documents do show that she was given at least $456,911 in quote unquote benevolent gifts from the anti-abortion movement. That's a lot of money. There's a lot of money. So now, that sure as hell doesn't sound like somebody who believes in the pro-life movement. I'm just saying. Now, that film, again, it comes out in a couple of days. And in it, they feature some evangelical leaders, right? One of them almost corroborates her story. Almost, right? Doesn't go so far as to admit that she was getting paid. But this is from Reverend Schenk. Reverend Schenk. Now, he heard her confession and said, yeah, I'm not really surprised. Just kind of admits, I was kind of taken aback, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of really not surprised about this. He said, quote, I never heard her say anything like this, but I knew what we were doing. And there were times when I'm sure she knew. And I wondered, is she playing us? What I didn't have the guts to say was, because I know damn well we're playing her. Well, of course. Of course. Yes. They offered her a bunch of money because she was a very high profile face. She was, again, a big fish, right? To publicly turn her against abortion after she had won the right to an abortion is gigantic. Of course you would want to have that person on your side, even if you have to pay them to be disingenuous. And that's exactly what happened here. Now, he also confirmed that she was coached on what to say in a lot of her speeches. So, yes, she was coached. Of course she was. Yes. And that corroborates her saying, yeah, they would bring me out and I would say whatever they wanted me to say. And that was it. And then I get paid. And then we were all happy. Are you at all surprised? You shouldn't be. Because, look, I think a lot of the pro-life movement is a sham. I do know people that are personally very pro-life. And I understand that. And those people, I think, are legitimate. But then there are a lot of people, especially in the leadership, who don't give a damn about life. No, what they give a damn about, what their whole purpose is controlling women and controlling their bodies, making sure that these women, these uppity women, know their place and will not succeed in a man's world. Why? Because they believe if a woman succeeds in a man's world, then they don't. That's what it's always been about. You keep women down so that men could be on top. They can make all the decisions and, more importantly, keep all the wealth. And this shows, of course, that those who benefit from that system, from keeping it the way that it was, will do anything to keep it that way. All right. I think I might skip the coronavirus story because we've talked about it so much, and this is just Fox News being Fox News. So I'm gonna skip that, and we're actually going to talk about something different. And maybe we'll do the Fox story if we have time. But I really want to get some better news out of the way. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is facing re-election in 2020. Now, Democrats have been trying to remove McConnell for years with very little success, obviously, because he's still there. That's despite him being one of the most unpopular senators in the country. At one point, his approval rating was 19%. So now, this turn, Democrats have picked Amy McGrath. Now, Amy McGrath, there's one problem with her. She's a centrist Democrat, and she's very milquetoast, and she will very likely lose. Now, the reason that she will lose is because she says, well, I support a lot of Trump's major policies. I back Trump a lot, and so she's barely even a Democrat. Why would people vote for someone who's Republican light? Why wouldn't they just vote for a Republican if they're going to vote for a Republican, right? They're not going to vote Republican light. They're going to say, ooh, no, Mitch McConnell is too conservative. No, we're going to try out Amy McGrath. Said no Republican ever. Come on, dude. All right, anyway. So now this race and Amy McGrath reminds me a lot of Allison Lundergan Grimes. So now longtime viewers of the show, you remember my commentary on that. Back in 2014, Grimes ran a terrible and uninspiring campaign to try to take down Mitch McConnell by declaring her love of coal. I'm not kidding. She's like, no, I love coal even more than Mitch McConnell loves coal. I love coal. I wash with coal. Like, I cuddle up with coal with a bag every single night. I'm kidding about that. But seriously, she said she loves coal. Well, what makes her different than Mitch McConnell? I mean, come on, dude. She also refused to admit that she voted for Barack Obama, who was president at the time. Now, what was the result of this? She still got crushed because she ran as Republican light. Why would people, again, vote for Republican light when they could vote for a Republican? And that's the big problem here, okay? She got absolutely crushed. So now, fast forward, we got another chance to take down Mitch McConnell, who has been just, awful, right? So this guy blocks every decent piece of legislation that comes to his desk. Instantly. Blocked. They're not taking up anything, right? And so, yes, we should get rid of this guy. He was one of the ones that didn't allow the Senate to vote on Merrick Garland for a year. That was Obama's Supreme Court pick. Yes, it was not a great pick, but it was better than Neil Gorsuch, who we ended up getting, or Brett Kavanaugh, who we ended up getting. No, we could have at least had somebody who was not nearly as bad as Gorsuch and Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court. That's, of course, if Hillary, or not even if Hillary Clinton won. If Obama had just been able to get his nominee. But no, McConnell blocked it, and the Democrats, in their infinite wisdom and hubris, said, Hillary Clinton's going to win the election anyway, so, we'll let McConnell get away with it. Oops. So now McConnell's, a complete douchebag for, basically engineering that situation and not letting I can't even remember his name now. Letting them get a vote on Obama's Supreme Court nominee. Well, now we have a chance to take him out. Now we have a chance. And so the establishment is thinking, well, Trump's unpopular now, right? So we've got a shot. We're going to run this incredibly milquetoast candidate who doesn't believe in universal health care during a pandemic. Well, she's going to win, right? She's going to win. She's going to win. They're doing it again. They're doing it again. Now, there's some hope now, though, right? Because I was going to say Allison Lundergan Grimes, because this is all over again. Amy McGrath is in a primary race that's actually really competitive. So now here comes Charles Booker, I should say. I don't know if I can call him Charlie. Now, who in the heck is Charles Booker? Well, it turns out he's a progressive Democrat from Kentucky's 43rd district. Now, he's an elected state representative for that district, so he's already in office, right? And he does sit in some important committees. In fact, he's on the Economic Development and Workforce Investment Committee. He's in the Natural Resources and Energies Committee. He's in the Judiciary Committee. He's also in the Economic Development and Workforce Investment Committee. He's, again, in the Interim Joint Committee, sitting on the Judiciary and Natural Resources and Energy, another member of that committee. And he's also, so look, he's an accomplished member of the Kentucky House, is what I'm trying to say. Okay? He's run an election in Kentucky as a progressive, and he's won. So now you might say, okay, so what, right? Where does he stand in the issues? Well, I mentioned he's progressive, but there's a lot of people that have been throwing around that word that aren't necessarily progressive. So let me talk about the policies, right? So now Booker believes in a universal healthcare system under Medicare for all. So that's single payer. Also believes in a new Green New Deal and a universal basic income. So now he's a little bit different than Bernie Sanders. He's not quite as progressive as Bernie on student loans, but says student loan forgiveness and free 4-year university. So that's up to the bachelor's level. No, I'm sorry, that's 2-year bachelor's degree, right? So you can get free college up to bachelor's. Now, speaking of Bernie Sanders, he did endorse Senator Bernie Sanders during his 2020 run. So that was on Super Tuesday that he made his endorsement of Bernie. So look, he may not be perfect, but he's heads and tails above Mitch McConnell on the issues. So I think that he would make a better senator. Certainly better than Amy McGrath and way, way better than Mitch McConnell. And so now we have more good news for him. Out of the 38 Democrats in Kentucky's House of Representatives, 18 of them, that's nearly half, including the Democratic leader, the Democratic caucus chair, and the Democratic whip, they have all endorsed him over Amy McGrath. That's amazing. Former Sanders 2016 staffer Ricardo Gutierrez tweeted this out. He said that Booker is a powerful unifier that can defeat Mitch McConnell. Fascinating. Now, look, the big issue, of course, is getting through a Democratic primary. Look, we know that and when it comes to Kentucky, the Democrats are really interested in keeping Mitch McConnell somehow. Why? Because back when Allison Lundergan Grimes was running a primary, was going to run against Mitch McConnell and eventually did become the nominee, there was somebody else in the running. It was Ashley Judd. Now, Ashley Judd was very progressive, and she was considering jumping into that race. And then here came the Democratic establishment, which made it so that she would not jump into the race because they wanted an unobstructed path for the centrist moderate named Allison Lundergan Grimes. She won the nomination, and she got crushed again by Mitch McConnell. And so we're hoping that doesn't happen this time. Okay. Bachelor's is 4 years. Sorry. Correction. Bachelor's is 4 years. I don't know how I got that mixed up. Okay. It's one of those days. So now, the Democratic primary is one of the most difficult things to get through. He's got to get through that if he's going to take on Mitch McConnell. Now, there are other Democrats that are running. This it's a very big field. And so, they might also be progressive. We got to focus on at least one of them, right? And defeating Amy McGrath. Now, she's the establishment. We need we need someone to take on this Republican as well. And so, look, you have the DSCC and the other establishment groups that are clearly lined up behind Amy, right? Which is why June 23rd, we've got to get up and go vote for the progressive if you're in Kentucky. I mean, could you imagine if that happens and he wins and he goes on to beat Mitch McConnell? A real progressive in Kentucky, of all places. Could you imagine? I mean, we could finally say, come on. I hate when it does that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Down goes Mitch McConnell. Down goes Mitch McConnell. Let us please whisper of a dream. I hope so. All right. That's it. That's all I got time for, guys. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Please support us by becoming a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation, or subscribe to the channel. And please share our content. All right, guys. Thank you. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow.